Oh, hi. Nice to meet you.
Nice to
Yeah.
meet
What's
you.
it?
Hi.
Oh, hello.
Hi.
Oh, hi. Hello. Hi. We're super excited to be with you guys today. The main goal of this podcast, we talk about experiences that we've had doing production, creating content, lessons learned along the way, and hopefully little gems that you can take and implement into your business that create value for what you're doing. So anyway, here we are.
Yes. So in thinking last night about today's podcast, I had a little bit of podcast anxiety. I was like, wait, but I was contemplating some questions I wanted to ask today. And I'm curious, what have you really enjoyed working on?
I'd have to say working with Sun Resorts has been a lot of fun. We worked with this company that has resorts all over the world, and a different concept. It's kind of like a resort experience, but instead of going to like a hotel room at the end of the day, you have your tiny home, or you can also bring an RV in. And so what they did this year is they decided to partner up with an influencer and do like a docu-series, but not so much focus on like the amenities of the resorts focused, but focused on the things to do in and around where the resorts are. And so we took this Anthony Bourdain approach to kind of travel with the host. His name is Robert, and just had a blast. Like, such a cool client, such an awesome host to work with. Like, he was just so down to earth, you know. And we got to see like a lot of podunk towns and cities that I never
Which are
really
still
would have.
really fun.
So much fun. So much fun. I never would have had them as like my bucket list, you know, but now that I've been, I'm like, I can't believe I didn't know that place existed, you know.
Petoskey.
Petoskey is a great example.
Petoskey. We got in trouble for that.
We did.
I bet.
We never learned our lesson, I guess.
Yeah, but that's a place I never would have gone without that show, you know. It was one where you kind of feel like you're just left out to dry, like in a good way. Like,
yeah.
You set everything up for us and make it as easy as you can, but no matter what happens when you're there, you got to make stuff happen on camera.
100%.
You know, and that I think I learned to love about it because it pushed the team. You know, because it was you and me out there the first time, and then me and Mark out there these last couple times, and it pushes you to be like, where is the story in this? Because there's not like when we shoot events or whatever, it's like something's already happening. You just put the camera up, something's happening. In this situation, you kind of have to be like, what's the plot here?
Oh,
you
yeah.
know?
I felt like you had to really flex your like journalistic muscles. Because yes, I did set up a lot of the people that we interviewed, the activities that you guys did, but you guys are there in lifetime making movie magic. So those are really cool to see come to life.
Yeah.
And yes, that was one of my favorite projects, but I think the Hair Love Vitality course, shout out to Elizabeth Faye and Derek, because to see it go from just conversations we had with them to the full blown education course, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And I think it's going to do so much good in the world with the subject matter. So I think that was something I was really proud of, and it took a long time. Yeah. It took a really long time.
Sure.
We thought we were biting off this much, and
Yes.
it was like actually an elephant that we were
I
biting
don't
off.
even think you have enough space to shoot.
Yeah, exactly. yeah.
But
I mean,
definitely
yeah.
check them out. Elizabeth Faye, Derek.
Hair Love. Yeah, and you know, one thing that I learned in doing these bigger projects is just the importance of pre-production and what goes into these, man. Because like, you know, you see an episode, you know, kind of going back to the Around the Sun project, and you know, you think about like, you know, how difficult it is for Anthony Bourdain to, you know,
Rest
ask
in
the right
peace.
question. Yeah, rest in peace.
Rest in
Oh my
peace.
gosh.
We lost
Hero.
a good one.
The GOAT.
But you don't think about all of the conversations that had to happen up to that point, and all the permissions,
permits.
Oh my
gosh.
And so that was a big learning experience. I felt like we added so much value to what we can offer companies in going through that process.
100%.
And the fact that Natasha did it basically by herself.
If you ever want to film at a state park, don't. It is such a process.
just don't.
Or just call us and we'll handle the dirty work, because there's so much that goes into even just shooting a 1-minute clip on a state park.
Well, and Brecken, I know you have something to say, but before, I got to say, between like episode 1 and episode 2, how much changed just based on your communication with the people.
Yes.
Because it was one little thing that you changed. It was like, instead of saying, hey, can we ask this favor kind of vibe, right? It was like, hey, we're doing this big production. We'd love to feature you guys.
We want to spotlight you, which
wanna
really
spotlight you.
is what
It
we
really
were
is.
doing.
Yeah.
Yes. We were in these towns. We wanted to showcase local businesses and places of attraction that people could easily get to from the resorts. So instead of being like, hey, do we have permission to shoot here? It was, we want to spotlight you in our next episode. And my conversion rate of phone call to actually filming was 100%. No one ever said no after that.
And when we showed up, how much different was it?
Amazing.
Oh, yeah.
It flowed. It's nice to get to a location too that you're shooting in, especially a business or something, or a state park, and they come and greet you, and they're like looking forward to having you there. Whereas we've all been in a situation where you show up and you're like, hey, we're going to shoot here. And they're like, yeah, that's not happening.
That tiny little tweak of how we, preface the conversation just made such a big difference,
And all of that was not powered with AI. That was my brain and my heart.
That's right.
Yes.
That was just I.
Yes, that was just I.
And
Oh,
it
yeah.
just makes shooting so easy because you can just focus on the creative aspect and not like, are we going to get chased down? Which later,
Should we just talk about Dubai, though, real fast?
yeah, I'll say that was probably one of my favorites just because it was the farthest I've ever been from here. So
Most different.
most different. Yeah. Interesting. Wouldn't necessarily want to live there, but visiting, it was
Hot.
worth visiting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a hot place.
Yeah.
So Dubai is not like drone friendly. Okay. Just throwing that out there. There's signs literally in the city that say no drones. Like not just in certain areas. It's like lockdown. I'm glad I didn't see that. Okay. I just kind of approach this like every other city, If we're doing an event, typically we're not getting permissions to, well, if we're working with like a convention center or something like that, we can ask them if we can fly in and around that. But typically just to kind of like establish a city or whatever, we get to a safe place, and we just launch the drone just to get some establishing shots of the city. Typically not an issue. Dubai, however, so I put the drone up and I'm like, I wonder how close I can get to the Burj Khalifa, There's got to be some sort of like, restriction or like a prohibited zone. Because a lot of times in places like that, there are, right? And so anyway, I'm just like flying the drone closer. I'm getting closer. And then all of a sudden I'm like, shit, I'm going to like hit the building. Like there's no restrictions. And I'm just like, just shot the drone all the way to the top of it and then dropped all the way down and got one of the coolest shots I've ever gotten in my life and just having a blast. I'm just like thinking back, it's hilarious how I'm just like over there, just like having fun, not knowing that at the same time, there is security looking for whoever's flying this drone, right? They see the drone flying around and they're like assembling the troops, trying to, figure out where it was launched from. As it's like landing, I hear these like CB radios, like the little boop, boop, kind of thing happening. And I was like, oh, that's not good. And then all of a sudden I hear voices like starting to come closer. And then off in the distance, I can see like a troop of maybe like 5 or 6 like police. And they've got their, their walkie-talkies going and they're like, trying to find me, obviously. And so like, I just like landed the drone. I'm like looking at them. I packed that thing up so fast and I pretended not to see him. And I just like held it and booked it, and I heard them in like behind me being like, sir, like trying to get my attention. I'm just like book it, like I'm just like doing kind of like a fast walk, like this is how I normally walk. Yeah. And then I just like,
I don't speak English.
yeah. No hablo inglés. Yeah. And then I ditch into a coffee shop, which luckily had another door that went to the main road, and I ditched out of that front door and took the long way back around to the hotel, got to our room with the drone and the footage. And I'm just like, I got the shot.
So if you're ever in Dubai at the Wiz Khalifa and you see
The Wiz Khalifa.
you see wanted signs of this man, that is from that story.
Yes. That's me. Wow. I would say my second favorite was Mediterranean.
Yeah.
It was just
That one was
everything went off
insane.
without a hitch. Yeah.
And
And
the footage that Mark put together when you got back from that one was some of the best that I think we've done recently.
Ooh, and
I agree. I think.
That trip with Saint was the very first time we ever implemented Viewfinder.
That's right.
Rolled it out to the
That's
public,
right.
which
Yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
super cool to see. So
Yeah.
Viewfinder is a content sharing platform that we created
Yep.
as a means for clients who are hosting these trips to easily share the footage captured on these trips to their attendees in a branded, clean website that is easily accessible. And it was really cool to see that come to life.
Well, and that was actually the second time, right? Because Over the Rainbow was actually the first time we did it, right?
yeah.
But with Saint was our first client that we did that with. But to be able to get them real-time content as the event's going, and the participants can log in and download it and share it as
Videos
it's going.
and photos.
I think that's huge.
Yeah, it's a huge
videos and photos,
Yeah.
Yes.
which is like companies do photos out there.
Right.
We even used a third-party app for a
Yeah.
while,
Yep,
But
yep.
having both there is pretty clutch.
And it's cool that it has like a little social media element to it too, which is fun. People log in and they can comment or tag other people, and so anyway, people have been really
Just waiting
loving
for
that.
the one time that someone's mad though, and like
Yeah.
tag something.
Why did you upload this photo?
Or they comment on someone else's, like, didn't love seeing you there.
yeah.
We can delete comments as
Yes,
an
yes, we can.
administrator
Yes.
side. We can monitor that.
Yes, right to flag that.
Yes. Yeah.
But it was cool to see because typically when we're doing these projects, it's like you see it all condensed into one highlight video. What Viewfinder does is it just sprawls out all of the content that we did, and it was so cool to look at like all the different galleries and click into them and just look at how much content these companies are typically they're already paying for, but they're kind of just like throwing out the window.
Sure.
Whereas
just
now,
sits on our drives.
yeah, now not only do they have access to everything, but they have these little tiny content creators with their participants doing their social media marketing for them with
Just
all of these clients.
really getting the most out of the trips that they're curating for these people. One of the questions that I had thought about was what in your previous work experience makes you feel so grounded in your role here? Like, because I mean, all of us have come from such different backgrounds, but we all collectively work so well together to produce the amazing work that we do here at Temple.
Sure.
So I was curious, like, what do you feel has lended you the most experience to tackle what you're currently doing?
I mean, the only reason I do videography is because I was a musician. So I think that's what set me up for it is I already came from the creative world. You know, I had to make videos for my bands to like promote them and, do that kind of stuff. So it kind of sort of let me dip my toes in the technical side on a low stakes sort of project, but high enough that I cared about it, to make something. So I think that sort of already set me up for that. And also being in a band is like being married or being on a team, you have to work together. So I think I already sort of had that going. But one thing I would add to that is I had to learn, though, once I started making videos, I really had to get better at taking feedback,
Yeah.
And I know that's not what you asked. You asked, how do we fit into this role? But I think that is a part of it, too, is I wasn't necessarily perfect in the beginning, I think I had a problem with feedback where when I would get feedback that was negative on something I made, I took it so personal.
Yeah. And the 4 agreements, you got to not take things personally.
Yeah, that's true.
That has
Yeah.
completely changed my life to
That
not
is-
take things personally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the second time we're mentioning that book. So
It's
we need
so
to mention
good.
it every podcast.
Use my promo code. No, I'm kidding.
4 agreements.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
Well, and
agreements,
I would say
backslash.
yep. / what I was going to say is though, working like as a band, you learn how to work as a team and work together in like highly pressurized situations, which crosses over, I think, as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think, but yeah, I mean, also it goes without saying, but I'll say it. I think also personalities just worked. We all became friends first. We felt comfortable with each other, and I think when you work with people that you have love for, you are way more dedicated to making something good because you want to impress
love
each other.
me?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Christmas! It's
What
a Christmas
sweet thing.
miracle.
Well, I love you too.
Wow. I love y'all.
Yeah, I think
No,
you put more weight into it when you care about the people you're making
Yeah.
it with.
100%.
100%. And I want to hear your response to this too, because I'm curious. But I would say, and not that I'm proud of all these things, but missionary work and network marketing. 2 things I would never do again, but 2 things I would also never like take out as far as like life experience. Because first of all, if I can sell Mormonism, I can kind of sell anything. And second of all, network marketing really taught me how to be a leader, I guess, and focus on personal development and all that. I didn't really see the value in that beforehand, and so that kind of got me on this road of like reading a lot and looking into personal development where beforehand I didn't really see a value in that, and so I feel like inadvertently I kind of through network marketing, like, because I had a team of a few hundred people and we would do events.
A few hundred? That's a lot.
And like one of our groups was just pure Spanish. So I would do leadership events in Spanish and then I would do some in English. And I think just like getting in front of people, being uncomfortable, going into people's houses, trying to sell things, doing presentations, all that kind of stuff, it really just taught me a lot of people skills that have crossed over now, and leadership skills to like maybe like, manage a small team, I mean, I'm not patting myself on the back. I have like long way to go. But like, it's the little bit, it's all we got. Yeah, it's all we got. So I would say that, honestly.
That's amazing. And you come from like many, many years of directing and videography experience. So I'm kind of shocked that you didn't bring that up at all. You were talking just about your people skills. Yeah. And you are a people person.
Well, you were saying like previous experience before this industry. So I was thinking something different from this that could add to this.
I love it.
But
I love it.
Yeah. What about you?
I'm 32, and when I was a freshman in high school, YouTube was at its basic stages. It was just beginning, and at the time I was a blogger. Like, the internet, social media has always absolutely fascinated me. And so when YouTube came about, I was like, oh my God, I have to jump on this. So I started making YouTube videos, and I would go around and just talk to people because I loved it. I loved sharing stories. I loved relating to people that had nothing to do with my life. I thought it was magic. Yeah. So I feel as if the art of storytelling has always been at my core. And I love that so much of what we do here focuses on that, the art of storytelling. And I feel as if I've always had a decent eye for content, social media, and I love my project management skills here and what I assist with in that regard. Sure. So yeah, cool. I've always loved just the video medium, if you will. And then, when I was a senior in college, I was interning for an influencer company. This was back when influencer marketing was literally at its start. So it's crazy to see how these worlds have just completely blown up over the last 10, 15 years. Yeah. But I started at the bottom of the totem pole. Sure. I was just taking orders, delivering them, just whatever my boss needed. Okay, I'll go do that. And to work up from there into different teams, into leadership positions of those teams, into business owner, I feel as if I know how to work with people, and I do not shy away from leading people. But I like to do so in a way where people don't feel like I'm just barking orders. It's a collaborative effort. And I think that makes everybody feel like they're equally contributing, and that's really important in a business world. Yep. So I think those two things have really lended themselves to being successful in this role with you guys.
Oh yeah.
And I've awesome. Never ever had a job that I love so much. Yeah. And I think it's because at the core, it's those two things. Like I feel like I'm nurturing my little kid, you know, with my work here.
Oh man. That was the coolest thing ever.
Did you just call Trevor a child?
Yeah, at the end of every day, I actually go over to her house and she just cradles me. Just go into fetal position.
I'm all hot. I was like, wait, I'm getting vulnerable.
Oh God, here it comes.
All flush.
Oh, here comes the blush.
I mean, I feel the same way though. Before this, I think I said this in the last podcast, but I'll say it again. Before this, I don't even want to say job. It's not even career. Doesn't feel right either. Right. This living, is something that now that I'm in it, like I just don't want to take it for granted because working regular jobs before, I sort of felt like a failure a lot because I could not hold a regular job down because I just was like, as soon as I would get in for like 2 months and be really great the first 2 months and then start slipping on attendance and like timing and getting behind on things. And it's just because I was like, this is the worst thing
just bored.
ever. we are so lucky to do what we do because so many other people don't have this, and they have to work those jobs. And so, I try really hard to not take it for granted because it's something that has made my life so much better and allowed me to like be more loving in my relationships and like explore my personal self like more so, and also see the world.
Isn't it amazing how your life transforms when the stress of your job is no longer there?
Yeah.
For years, I worked in a space that every night I would come home crying because I was just under so much stress. And I used to think like, this cannot be it.
Yeah.
I would stare out of my office window like I had climbed that corporate ladder. I had the job that I thought I wanted. And I remember just sitting there like, this is not it.
Yeah.
And I felt so like, well, what am I going to do though? Like if I don't have this, how am I going to live? And that pressure kept me there for way too long. And the second I was like, you know what? I'm just going to bet on myself. I don't know what's going to happen next, but I don't want to do this anymore. And then I met Trevor.
Yeah, there you go.
We become very close with the people that we work with.
Oh, yeah.
I love that our clientele will just call me on a Friday, you know, and be like, hey, blah, blah, blah. It's very casual. And I enjoy that.
Yeah, me too. Like with Rachel, for example, we were talking
her.
about Sun Resorts and she's our contact over there. But like, we're like buds and Instagram and always following each other's lives.
It's
and
sweet.
Exactly.
That's really like the ideal situation, is, and we're at a size where we really value a small group of clients. And we would much rather service 8 to 10 clients that we can really get to know really well, that trust us, we trust them, we're all in this together, instead of let's just do, a bunch of different projects for 100 different people.
See how much we can pump through in a year's time.
Yeah.
I hear you.
Yeah.
But I think that comes because we're all very intentional people.
Yeah.
We all have bigger purposes and reasons as to why we get up and do what we do every day. And it never feels like work per se. So I'm grateful for that.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Why would somebody hire like a team like us instead of getting their own production crew?
Like an in-house?
Like in-house. Like if I was a client and I'm looking, like I need production, I need content for the business, right? So am I like hiring a videographer? Am I hiring like a production team, 3-4 people? Or am I reaching out to an agency? And like what's going to be the difference in
I think when you're working with like a contractor or maybe like a small group of people in-house, you're limiting yourself to those people and their talents
their
and
creative desires and their like the way they see things. It's like,
yes.
I've always heard from this book, actually, Rick Rubin talks a lot about taste, and when you pay a producer, you pay a mixing engineer, or pay a videographer.
Sorry.
Whoa, tingles. But when you pay someone for that, you're paying for their taste,
Right.
And I think, when you have an in-house, you're kind of locked into those people's taste.
Yep.
Whereas if you're a company, reaching out to an agency that's diverse and has many people on the team is probably more budget conscious, as well as you can sort of see their work and be like, which one fits the look I want the most.
Yep.
And I feel as if, speaking on our team personally, we're so multifaceted. And I feel as if like, as a client, when you're coming into a project, there's so much that's going to come about that you don't know what you don't know. Yeah. And in the creative process, you may be like, oh, we should have our own jingle for this, or we should, try this editing style. It's, we have the capabilities of doing all of that. We're not just stuck to just video editing.
Right.
Or content creation.
That's right.
I mean, let's say a company were to hire like one person, give them a $75,000 a year salary, and it's like a content creation generalist, right? Where somebody, he writes or she shoots, edits, right? That individual is probably going to be really good at one thing and just okay or decent at everything else, right? Whereas if you take that same, let's say $75,000 now, and you move it into an agency situation like this, right? You're going to be getting the same content, the same amount of content, but just like you guys were saying, now you've got 8 different people that are all super niche on different things that need to happen in the project. Yeah. And it's like, okay, if you need X for your project. We're putting this person on because they're the best at this one thing,
Yep.
right? And so you have this myriad of talent coming in for the same price as like one person. Now, if you're looking at like a production crew, I would say like, okay, let's times that salary by 3 or 4 people. Now you're like over $250,000 that you're paying a year, and you've got to look for a space for these people, right? So like you're looking at rent space.
Sure.
You got to get gear probably at that point, you know. So
and you're their customer service if they have issues.
if they have issues, you're their customer service. You're their account manager. You're the project manager, right? All of that, and yeah, like I said, I mean, it's all value-based, right? I think that when you're working with an agency, if you find the right agency, you're going to have so many headaches disappear from you trying to create your own production house. You have all of the gear already worked out, the systems, the management already taken care of, and all of the individual talents recruited for you at probably less than half the cost to get the same output.
Yes.
I want to put an analogy out there just because you guys know I love clothes. I feel like in the same way, you know, you could go buy a suit at like H&M or something like that, and it will fit your needs. Maybe that's your budget. Maybe that's all you can afford, right? But having something bespoke made for you, you know, is something that you will get more miles out of. You know, you're going to love how it looks way more.
Wait, is this a Mr. Mac commercial?
You're
I
going to love the way you look.
I guarantee it.
You know, but I think in that same sense, you know, hiring someone in-house might fill the need for that moment, you know, and maybe you're hoping long-term they'll stay or whatever, but you really don't know.
Right.
But if you reallocate that into like, okay, I'm going to like make something with this team who this is their job. And like you said, everyone has a different specialty. Then I'm going to get something out of it that is more tailor-made for what my business needs.
You're basically getting 10 people for the price of one.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like you're getting that better suit, but actually at a, I don't want to say cheap, but you know, at a lower price than the H&M suit maybe at the end of the day.
In my view, at least in the clothing world, I think paying that extra money, if it is more, you learn, like, for example, when I was younger, I would buy cheaper stuff because I didn't have no money. You know, still ain't got no money.
I ain't got no money.
Somehow, you know, but you start buying nicer things, they last longer. You like them more, you know. And I think in the same sense, like working with a production house who's like, that's their whole thing, like we do. You know, as a client, you're going to start seeing better returns on that content.
Yeah, even if you were paying the same.
Yeah.
Because value is not always just tied to the dollar.
Yeah.
100%. With that said, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. This has
you.
been Temple City Studios podcast.
Good job, everyone.
Great work, guys.
What are we saying? What about Let's Rock Today?
Okay, let's
Okay.
do it.
Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3.
Let's rock today.
School of Rock.
I think it's actually, you know, that's
Yeah, you got to do the...
You're tacky and I hate you.
tacky, and it's one of the best lines in movie history.
Okay, we'll see you on the next one. Thanks for tuning in, guys.
Deuces.